Do you ever have that moment where the floor drops out from under you, and every person in the room starts laughing like you're the punchline of a joke you didn't even know you were telling? That was my life 3 years ago, standing in the Oceanic Institute's conference room, 20 tenured marine biologists roaring at me while Dr. Halloway, the department lead, told me my career was over. Biodegradable artificial reefs, plant-based polymers, you're building plastic reefs, Elias, Halloway sneered, tossing my research binder onto the table. It's foolhardy, it's impractical, and we're not wasting another dime on it. Clean out your desk, you're done here. That's the professional dismissal that broke me at first, but the gut punch that followed, that came from my own family. I drove straight to my parents' house, still wearing my lab coat, and before I could even say the words, my dad shook his head. I told you this marine biologist dream was ridiculous. You should have joined your brother's fishing fleet. Now you're unemployed, you've wasted your degree, and you're an embarrassment to this family. My mom nodded, wringing her hands. We just want you to be realistic, honey. No one's going to take a plastic reef guy seriously. I left that night, packed my car with my research, my dive gear, and my last $8,000 in savings, and drove to a small coastal town in the Florida Keys where the local coral reefs had been declared dead 5 years prior. I rented a tiny workshop by the marina and I got to work. The first year was hell. The locals called me the plastic reef guy, laughed when I walked into the diner, told me I was wasting my time. Every module I placed in the shallow water washed away in the first strong current. The polymers I mixed broke down too fast or too slow or leached nothing into the water to help coral grow. I worked 16-hour days tweaking the recipe, adding crushed staghorn coral to the plant-based polymer to give larvae something to grip. I dove in the dark, in the rain, in choppy water, placing module after module alone. Then 14 months in, I dove down to check a batch I'd placed in a dead zone 3 months prior and my breath caught. Tiny pink coral polyps clustered all over the modules. Growing, spreading, I scaled up. 50 modules, then 500, then 5,000. A year later, that dead zone was teeming with parrotfish, sea turtles, vibrant coral in every shade of pink and orange. Then Hurricane Ian hit, a Category 4 that wiped out the state-installed concrete reefs along the coast. My biodegradable modules, they flexed with the current, stayed intact, protected the shoreline from storm surge better than the concrete ever had. The story went viral, National Geographic flew down, the UN called. I won the Goldman Environmental Prize, was invited to speak at global climate summits. The same Oceanic Institute that fired me offered me the Director of Marine Restoration position with a public apology from Dr. Halloway. The plastic reef lie was dead. My polymers break down completely after 10 years, leaving nothing but living, thriving coral. No microplastics, no waste, just life. I hadn't spoken to my family in 3 years. But when my sister called to invite me to my parents' 50th anniversary party, I said yes. I walked into the VFW hall where they were hosting the party, and the room went dead silent. My brother, the fishing fleet owner, stared at my linen shirt, my tan, the climate award pin on my lapel. My dad walked over stiff, his hand outstretched. Elias, we didn't think you'd come. I pulled out my tablet, handed it to him. The live feed of the 12,000-acre marine sanctuary I'd established, now the largest restored coral ecosystem in the world, fish darting past the camera, a sea turtle gliding by. Then I pulled out the letter from the Oceanic Institute and Halloway's apology, which he'd mailed to my parents' house weeks ago. My mom started to cry. My brother looked at his boots. Halloway, who'd been invited as a family friend, stood in the corner staring at the floor. I'm not taking the Institute job, I said, and the room held its breath. I'm launching a global initiative to restore 100 dead reefs in 10 years, and I want to partner with your fishing fleet to transport the modules. You know these waters better than anyone. My dad's face crumpled. Not with anger, but with the weight of every harsh word he'd ever said to me. We were wrong, Elias, he whispered. We were so wrong. I smiled, and for the first time in years, I meant it. I didn't come here to rub their faces in my success. I came to show them what happens when you keep working when everyone tells you to stop. The reef didn't prove them wrong. The reef saved a dying ocean. That's the only win that matters. I walked out onto the porch, the warm Florida air hitting my face, the sound of the ocean in the distance. I used to lie awake at night replaying their laughter, wondering if they were right. Now, I know better. Your dream isn't ridiculous if it's worth fighting for, and the people who mock you, they don't get to define your worth, you do. That's the lesson the coral taught me, and that's the lesson I'll carry with me every time I dive into the blue.